So this is the one where I attempt to repair the barrel spigot that's broken. I'm going to braze cast iron, which I've done before for cosmetic things like broken fins, but I've not actually attempted something like this where it's a mechanical component of the engine, sort of internal to the engine, if you like. This one's very much a do it at your own risk. You either view it as a repair or a bodge. Would I use it on a race bike or a long distance tourer or anything like that? Almost certainly no. It'll hold the barrel together, and that's all I can say. So it'll be one of those over to the comments and let me know what you think, good, bad and ugly. But I was almost at the stage of saying, you know what, I'm not going to actually put this on to YouTube, but yeah, go on, I'll throw it all out there. It all adds to the discussion. It probably gives a few ideas and probably helps somebody who's maybe a bit better cast iron brazer than me, which wouldn't be difficult. So here's the video. It's recorded in various stages, so I'm sure it changes on and off. This I'm recording sort of at the end of it, even though you'll see it at the beginning. So have a watch through it, tell me what you think, and hopefully it helps somebody somewhere, maybe. Right, enjoy the video. Thanks a lot for watching, and please, if you're not subscribed and all that, please do so, and certainly do the notification thing for the random times that I tend to post videos. Thanks a lot. I needed a bit of aluminium round stock for this job on the barrels. You'll see why in a minute. So I've been casting again. I didn't have any. Just turning down the casting. It was cast actually in a tuna tin, so that's why it looks like a tin can. Not too bad for something that was coat tins and old door frames about 2 hours ago. This is our A10 barrel I briefly spoke about on the previous video. As you can see, with a little bit of light behind there, it's pretty bad. We can see the crack quite well there. And what this is for, go in there with a thread, a piece of bar through to the other side and pull that piece down and back into alignment there before we braze, or prep at least for brazing, and then braze. The first thing I want to establish is how far round that crack goes. It's starting to get, it's almost coming up and joining up at the rate we're going, so I'm going to roughly clean it up with some brake cleaner, and then we'll do a bit of a dye penetrant test and see if we can find out where it is on this side. Okay, we'll give it a clean up with some brake cleaner. Let that dry off. I'm only interested in where the crack is this end, because obviously I can see that part. So I'll just get a bit on the inside here. And then we'll put our developer more on the outside. We'll leave that now for 10-15 minutes or so to penetrate, and then we'll clean everything up and apply the developer to the other side. Now a little bit of time's passed, we'll use the penetrant remover. I've just wiped off any excess, but with this you don't spray it directly onto the item, you just wipe it on the surface and remove the penetrant that way. You don't want to soak the penetrant again or flush it out from where you're trying to find the cracks. So I'll just continue to clean this up for a little bit. Now we spray a developer onto the surface. And we just give that a little bit of time to do its job. I have no idea how this is going to turn out on camera, but we'll give it a go. Under UV light, now we stick that on there, we can see, or I can see, the crack and where it goes to. Is just about, there's a very fine line following round. Let's have a look from the outside. Not so easily visible from the outside because of the rough casting. It's kind of following a bit of a fold line or casting sand roughness in the middle there. So I'll mark it off on the inside where it goes to, and we'll take another look. So there's our crack following round, and it ends at that little mark I've just put on there. As close as I can see. So it allows you to see it much further up than you can normally do by the naked eye. So what I'm going to do now is clean up this little bit of roughness with a little grindstone, find the end of the crack, and I'm going to drill a little tiny hole there just to stop the crack spreading any further, and that'll be filled with the braze as we do it. There we go, that's a better view through a magnifier. Just about see the end of the crack there. There's our little drill hole just at the end of the crack. That should hopefully stop it spreading any further. And that was drilled from the outside using a long series drill bit. I've got the dye penetrant off roughly. I'm going to give it a bit of a clean with some non-chlorinated brake part cleaner. then the piece that I made earlier on the lathe, that bit is the top press piece to push this part down and back into position. But I've also got the barrel bit sticking out a little bit this way on this side, which is a little bit more difficult to try and manipulate. So off camera, because it's going to take a while, I'm going to try and get this into position and clamped before I start to V it out with a grinding wheel and get the first tacks on to get it into place. So with a combination of a Jubilee clip and that clamp, I've got that as best as I can get that. I'm going to get it now, V that out a little bit there and get a braid tack in place, and then let everything off and relax again and see what it does. So all that piece of alloy has done is it's given me a register to correct the position of that cracked piece. There we are, V'd out a bit, ready for brazing. For brazing this I'll be using Cephal Bronze 32. And although you can get away with just the organ shielding with TIG brazing, I'll be using some Unibronze flux as well. And I'm also going to give this a little bit of preheat. Okay, so far, few problems going on here. One, I'm not the world's best TIG welder. I'm even probably worse at trying to TIG braze. I'm ending up with more of a amalgam of cast iron and brass, bronze. As I'm heating it, more cracks are appearing. They're storing out from the other areas, so I've sort of put a bit of layer over there. I'm losing the edge a little bit there as well. I've V'd out a bit more and gone further round there. And at this stage I'm going to clean that up and take the clamping pieces out and just see what happens as it cools before I go any further, and then sort of start the process again if this bit stays together. But as it's heating up and as it's cooling, I can hear it going ping, crack, ting, and I'm thinking, I'm making this worse, if it can be any worse. So let's see what happens when this cools down, and I'll take that clamp off. There we are so far with a light clean up. I've now got to work from the inside to try and get it V'd out in there and get up to where I drilled that hole. I've got the V cut into where the crack is as best I can. Okay, kind of got it. I'm going to clean it up and just see what it comes out like. Cleaned up there. It's penetrated through in a couple of places. We've got a bit there where the hole was drilled. Not the greatest, contaminated and cracking as I go, but yeah, I'll clean it up, see what it looks like. As you can see, we're set up on the mill with the barrels, and I've just centred on that bore, and using a piece of paper I've set that central so that we're about the thickness of a piece of paper all the way round, clear of the bore. So a little bit more tweaking to do actually. And then I'll take the boring bar down and just skim off the excess material there to within, what's that, a couple of thou or so the thickness of the paper, and then we can see what it looks like if we're going to do any more work to it, and if we're okay we can hone the rest of the way, and hopefully it just clears that away. For those worried about rings and things like that, it's well below the line. The rings, sort of when the pistons at the bottom come down to sort of that level, bottom fin kind of level, so we're clear of the rings. It's literally just supporting the skirt. So if there's a little bit of indiscrepancy in the bore down here, it shouldn't affect things too badly. After taking the bulk off with the mill and a bit more grinding, I'm at that stage, which is still a bit bumpy. I'm going to try and dry hone now, just before we go to wet honing, and see what happens with that, see if it flattens that surface out a little bit more. That's cleaned up as far as I'm going for now. I've given it a very coarse hone just to clean out the rust from the bores. It's got quite a bit of shadowing. It'll get a proper hone later on when I'm ready to use them with the right type of hone. Yeah, it's held together. That's about all I'm going to say about it. So it's a good job this isn't really going to be a road or a properly used machine, and it might be many years down the line before it's anywhere near the running at the rate I'm going. In the meantime, I might find some better barrels. So is it worth doing? If you're a better welder than me or better brazer than me, you might get away with better. There's still some areas on the outside that still show a crack that I can't get to, but I've already, as I'm brazing, I'm getting more cracks appearing, so I'm not doing very well at this at all. On this one there's a little, you can see a little bit on there, but on the inside it's not too bad. There's a few hollows in it. When I come to fit the barrels and pistons, we'll check the ring gaps and things. They'll probably be huge. Ideally it wants a better going over. If it was sort of at a lower bore size, then I'd spend a bit more time and just get it bored afterwards properly. But I'm at the sort of maximum on it anyway, so really it's just saving it from the scrap man. Yeah, that's it. Would I recommend it? Probably not. But it does sort of work and hold it together for now. So I certainly won't go racing on it all around the world tours and things. But for what I'm going to do with it, it'll do, unless I come across something better. Because it's about to be mentioned, someone will say, why don't you sleeve it? Because sleeves are available. I'm just adding this little bit at the end. The wall thickness there, just underneath the bottom fin and to the flange, is just about 5mm, possibly a little bit over 5mm thick. It's quite thin at that point, and as I've gone round other sections of it, that bit there, that's 4mm there. So at the spigot itself, at that point, we have got there 4mm again. If we can get that on camera. Move that round. You might have to sit close to your computer for this one. So we're only just about 4mm thick on the spigot, and just on the barrel, as I say, just about 5mm. So the ideal would be to remove the spigot completely and eliminate that problem, clean it off at the bottom, fit a new liner, stick it out the bottom, put your notches in, brilliant, job done. Except you're going to have barely any material on the sort of body of the cylinder, so that isn't an option really. The liners that you buy take out, I think this is on plus 60, I think from memory they probably take out about another 1.5 to 2 thou from this plus 60 point, and then you're back to standard. But once it's fitted, it really wants boring, unless there's any material on it. There probably is, to bore to standard. So this spigot ends up incredibly thin. It's literally just going to flake off. And again, you've still got the problem here of the lack of material. So although yes, I'd agree that liners are available, if there was more material on these areas and in between the fins, you'd get away with it, but you're going to be left with virtually nothing holding it together. We've only got there, that for example, that's just an oil drain from the top end through. There's no through bolts. Everything relies on the flange here, and they beefed the flange up during production anyway. They went to the thick flange barrel because of this problem of things cracking, especially when they went to like Super Rocket and things like that. So as the performance went up, the barrel wasn't adequate anyway. So if you're going to go boring it and putting liners in it, yeah, the only answer is to find good barrels, or if you were the ideal, I would just pop down to the BSA dealer and buy a new set of pistons to go with it, but we're not, unfortunately, in that position. So we'll see how we go with these.